Welcome to Sports Cards once again. So in this video, we're going to talk about your personal collection that you had from when you were a kid and whether you're continuing to collect the same kinds of cards in your adulthood or whether you've shifted. This is a conversation that I'm going to share my own thoughts on some of your poll responses to a poll I had recently about this question. So let's get into this. So in the poll, my question was, if you collected cards as a kid, do you still PC the same player / team / etc. as you did then? 41% said yes, exclamation point. 30% said a little bit, but I have a lot of different aims now. 13% says not really. 11% says no. And 6% say I didn't collect previously. So this is interesting. One thing I find fascinating here is only 6% said they didn't collect previously. So to me, that tells me that at least the people watching my channel, at least the people responding to my polls, are all people that are like my age, which from my channel analytics also, it seems like everybody watching my channel is between the ages of 35 and 44, a little bit in the age group below, a little bit in the age group above, but it seems like almost everybody watching my channel is right in that same age range as me. It's really interesting. And I think this is also, it's interesting to see how 94% of the people responding to this poll collected when they were kids and then collect now. Some of them collect differently, some of them collect the same, but the fact that there's this kind of ongoing story that's the same with so many people that they collected as kids and then they're collecting now. Some people might have gone straight through the whole time and a lot of people probably had big gaps, but I find that to just be fascinating, this common story that, my own story I thought was unique when I first I was into cards and then I wasn't into cards and then I was into cards again. I didn't realize it was that's 80% of the hobby has a very similar story, which I just find to be fascinating. But anyway, 41% of you guys said that yes, you do collect the same players or teams or whatever cards you collected as a kid, you're collecting the same ones now. So that's interesting. Me, I'm kind of in that category. But it's also changed. I think if I had to choose one, I would probably choose the second category here, which is a little bit, but I have a lot of different aims now. That's the one I think more defines where I'm at. Part of that is because my collection from when I was a kid, is still sitting in my parents' attic and I haven't seen it in 10 plus years. So I know that once I go back to the States and I'm gonna be there longer, because every time I've gone back over the past 10 years, it's been for just summer for a month or two. And we have so many things going on that I've never thought about really going deeply into my cards, because I knew it would be something that once I go into them, I'm gonna go into them deep and I'm gonna need to spend a bunch of time. And whenever we've gone back to visit, we have so many people we wanna see, so many friends we wanna see, so many places we wanna go to that I just haven't prioritized it. And I'm always with family and stuff when I'm there. So when we move back, I'm extremely eager to go through and look at my cards. When I was a kid, I collected a lot of mid-90s basketball inserts. My main PC guy was Nick Van Exel. I have a ton of Nick Van Exel cards, a few other players as well, but it was mostly him. Really was the highlight of my PC. And then whatever I happened to pull from packs that I just liked. I don't think I ever once sold a card or anything. So whatever I pulled from packs, I've kept, unless I traded it to a friend or something like that. But I've kept a lot of it. But now I would say, I'm curious. I'm a little bit curious once I go through that, which ones are going to become the ones that I really truly want to keep. I've even been thinking I don't feel as much of a connection with Nick Van Exel as I used to, but he was a big part of my childhood collecting experience. But does that mean I'm gonna wanna keep all of my Nick Van Exel cards that I had from when I was a kid? Or does that mean I'm gonna pull out a handful that speak the most to me, that mean something to me? One of my Nick Van Exel cards I got after I finished collecting, a friend of mine got a in-person autograph of Nick Van Exel on a card, and he gave that to me as a gift one time. Absolutely keeping that one, 100%. But I kind of question sometimes, is that going to be the card that represents my childhood collection of Nick Van Exel, that along with maybe 2 or 3 others that just stand out? Or am I going to end up still having hundreds and hundreds of Nick Van Exel cards that just, look cool? I don't really know. I'm kind of curious to knowing what I'm going to do once I see that. I think a lot of the cards that I had in my collection are are not things that would be too difficult to replace if I ever wanted it to. I've never had super high expensive cards in my collection. So if I did end up getting rid of some of my collection, if I ever felt like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, I'm not too worried. I could easily get some of it back. I don't have anything super valuable. So I'm curious though, when I get back to the States and I look through those old cards, what are the things that are going to speak to me the most? Because, you know, when I'm buying cards like on COMC and different places that I'm keeping for myself, they tend to always be mid-90s basketball cards. You know, Damian Lillard, you know, you've seen is my PC guy, so I'm getting a lot of Damian Lillard. And for a while, I was PCing a few other players from this era. Jaylen Brown, I really like. DeJounte Murray, you know, Jrue Holiday, and I have a few cards from each of those guys. But I've been feeling less and less like I don't really need to keep some of these. The Damian Lillard ones, I'm a little bit more like drawn to, but from the modern ones, I'm less drawn to a lot of the other stuff. But I'm drawn to a lot of the mid-90s stuff to keep. So even when I go on COMC, you know, when I've been looking, sometimes I'm looking to flip a card, sometimes I'm looking for arbitrage opportunities, and sometimes I'm looking for just cards that I'm going to keep. And every time it's a card that I'm like, oh, I want to keep that one. It's a mid-90s card. Every time. I don't think it's ever not been, interestingly. You know, because the modern stuff, I feel like generally I'm tending to just find flipping and arbitrage opportunities with the modern stuff. The older vintage stuff I really, really like, but it's also so expensive, and I don't necessarily like spending too much money on stuff for my own PC. So I don't have a whole lot of vintage, and I can't buy vintage locally where I am either. So it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense for me at the moment. But again, when I move back to the States in a couple of months, it's hard to say what my PC will look like long term. I've been thinking a lot about it, like how I want it to be structured, because when I was a kid, it was all about quantity over quality. I have binders and binders and boxes of cards. Most of them are probably things that I don't care about at all anymore. So I'm probably going to be offloading a number of those things and then whittling it down to the things that actually spark joy. What is that I remember on Netflix? I never actually watched it, but there was that show about that you know, minimalist cleaner or whatever, like keep what sparks joy. That's basically going to be my approach when I go through my box. It's going to be fun though. I think I'll make a series of videos about this when I go back to the States and take all my boxes of cards out of storage. Before I get into other life things, I want to really focus some time on just that. I'm extremely excited. Probably within the first week or two, before I've even gotten over jet lag, I'll probably start to really like spend a bunch of time digging into that just for fun, because I think we're probably going to go like about a month when we get back without worrying about you know, job and work and all this kind of stuff. Just for a month, kind of like be there, visit family, visit friends, go to the Oregon coast, you know, just do a month of vacation-y kind of stuff. And I'm sure during that time I'm going to be digging into my cards as well. And then after that we'll get into life patterns and things like that. So I want to do as much of the card, and I have a feeling during that time I'm going to really be identifying what it is for me that's going to define my PC, because I think up till now it's been a little bit haphazard and I don't quite know what defines my PC. So I'm looking forward to defining that a little bit more. So we'll see where it goes. But in general, I think it will have changed. There's certain concepts that are going to be the same from when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was about, you know, cards that I liked the look of and that had a player that I was connected to in some way or another. And I still think that's the case. I'm not collecting cards because of their value. I'm not collecting cards because, you know, of their status or something like that. I'm collecting cards that just visually appeal to me and that I like having. You know, if it's a very expensive card, I'm less likely to want to keep it because I'd rather have some money and do something with that money, even if it's within cards, to have some ongoing things that I could have. I like the lower end stuff. Some of my favorite stuff is lower end stuff. So I've said that many times in past videos as well. But anyway, that's it for this video. I hope this was fun for you. It's fun for me to think about this kind of stuff. But I'll check you in the next one. Peace.